I didn't notice it right away. That's the part that still bothers me. Not what I found, but how long it had already been there before I looked. I worked late most nights. The building would empty out around 7, and by 9 it was just me, the hum of the servers in the back room, and the kind of quiet that makes you hyper-aware of every small sound. I never minded it. I actually preferred it that way. My name is Daniel. I'm a network administrator for a mid-sized logistics company in Cincinnati. Not glamorous work. I monitor systems, handle access requests, troubleshoot connectivity issues. I'd been with the company for 6 years and had a routine that rarely changed. My office was on the 3rd floor of a building that had maybe 40 employees during the day. After hours, I was usually the only person up there. Sometimes a cleaning crew came through around 10. I knew their schedule. I knew everybody's schedule. I had access to the security camera dashboard as part of my job. 12 cameras total: parking lot, lobby, both stairwells, the server room, and the main open floor. I knew every feed by number. I had checked them so many times they'd become background noise. If you've ever worked a job like that, technical, solitary, repetitive, you know how easy it is to stop seeing things that are right in front of you. That's what happened to me. That's exactly what happened. If any of this feels familiar to you, drop something in the comments. I'd like to know I'm not the only one. And if you're new here, subscribe. Every story I tell on this channel is based on something that actually happened. It was a Tuesday in early November. I remember because it had just started getting dark before 6, and that always changes the way the office feels, smaller somehow. I was running a routine audit on the camera system. Nothing specific flagged it. I did it every few weeks as part of standard protocol. Log in, verify feeds are active, check timestamps on the recordings, make sure storage isn't maxing out. I opened the dashboard at 9:42 p.m. 12 feeds. I counted them out of habit. Then I counted again. There were 13. I sat back in my chair. I thought I'd miscounted. I did it a 3rd time, clicking each thumbnail. 13 active feeds. The new one was in the bottom right corner of the grid. Camera 13. The image was dark, grainy, interior, a desk, a monitor, a keyboard, a chair. I leaned in closer. There was a coffee mug on the desk, a specific one, blue, with a chipped handle on the left side. It took me about 4 seconds to realize it was my desk. I was looking at my own workstation from an angle I didn't recognize, slightly elevated, pointed down at roughly 45 degrees. Whoever mounted it had placed it somewhere above and behind the monitor, probably on the shelf where I kept binders and old manuals. My hands didn't move for a while. The first thing I told myself was that IT had installed a new camera for coverage reasons and just hadn't told me. That happened sometimes. Small changes made at the executive level that didn't filter down properly. The second thing I told myself was that I should check the installation logs before I assumed anything. I pulled up the hardware registry. Every camera on the network was supposed to be logged when it was added. Make, model, IP address, date of installation, who authorized it. Camera 13 was not in the registry. I stared at that for a long time. Not in the registry meant it hadn't gone through standard channels. It hadn't been authorized by IT, hadn't been submitted as a facilities request, hadn't been approved by my department or anyone above it. It was just there. I tried to pull the device metadata, manufacturer, MAC address, firmware version. The feed came back with partial information. The IP was internal, meaning the device was connected to our network, but the MAC address returned as unregistered. It didn't match anything in our asset database. Someone had physically installed a camera, connected it to the company's internal network, and left no record of it. I considered calling my supervisor. It was 9:51 p.m. I didn't. Instead, I scrolled back through the camera's recorded footage. The system stored 30 days of video by default. Camera 13 had 30 days of footage, which meant it had been installed at least a month ago, probably the first day that footage window was available. I went back to the earliest file. October 10th, 6:04 a.m. The desk was empty, the office was dark, but the camera was already running. By 8:17 a.m. on October 10th, I appeared on camera. I sat down, opened my laptop, put my coffee mug on the desk. I didn't look up. I didn't notice anything. I watched myself work for 4 minutes before I stopped the playback. I had been filmed every day for over a month, and I hadn't known. I tried to stay clinical about it. I opened a separate window and started documenting everything. Timestamps, file sizes, the partial device info. I was thorough. That's what you do when something is wrong and you don't want to feel scared. You do the work. At 10:08 p.m., I went to the shelf behind my monitor. There was a small rectangular device wedged between two binders. Black. About the size of a thick phone. A tiny lens on the front, barely visible unless you were looking directly at it. I didn't touch it. I photographed it with my phone. Then I stepped away. At 10:14 p.m., I went back to the camera dashboard to look at the live feed from camera 13. The live feed showed my desk, empty chair, dark monitor, the binders on the shelf. But my chair wasn't empty. I was sitting in it. I looked at the screen, then I looked down at myself, then back at the screen. The chair in the feed was pushed slightly back, at a different angle than mine. The coffee mug was gone. The keyboard was in a different position. I reached forward and moved my keyboard about 4 inches to the right. On camera 13, the keyboard didn't move. The feed was not live. Or it was live, but not of my desk. Not right now. I checked the timestamp on the feed. It read live. The timestamp was updating in real time. 10:14:32, 10:14:33, 10:14:34. But the image wasn't current. I went back to the recording archive and pulled up today's footage from camera 13. I scrubbed to 9:42 p.m., the moment I first opened the dashboard. In the recording, I'm sitting at my desk, leaning forward, staring at my monitor. You can see the exact moment I count the camera feeds. My head tilts slightly. I go still, but the live feed showed a desk that no one was sitting at. I looked at the shelf. The device was still there. The lens was still pointing at my chair. Something was wrong with what was being broadcast versus what was being recorded. They weren't the same footage. Someone was feeding the live view from somewhere else. A stored image, a loop, something, while the actual recording continued quietly in the background. At 10:19 p.m., I disconnected the device from the network by pulling its Ethernet cable from the wall panel behind my desk. The camera 13 feed went dark. The recordings did not disappear. 30 days of footage, still stored, still accessible. I did not watch all of it that night. I reported it the next morning. There was an internal investigation. The device was sent to an outside security firm for analysis. 3 weeks later, I was told the results were inconclusive and that no further action would be taken. I was told it was possibly a miscommunication from a third-party vendor. I asked which vendor. I was told that information wasn't available. I asked for a copy of the 30 days of footage. I was told it had been deleted as part of the investigation. I still work there. I don't stay late anymore. I leave before 7 with everyone else, and I don't look back at my desk when I walk out. Last week, I was running a routine audit on the camera system. I counted the feeds. There were 12. I counted again. Still 12. I sat back and told myself that was correct. But for about 3 seconds, I was absolutely certain it was going to be 13.